Hello YouTube, this is JayzTwoCents. I'm TJ. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out my channel already, please do so. I have a series about my life in foster care. I highly suggest you guys check it out. It's very educational. I did write a book about it. I'm in the works of publishing it, so look out for a link in the descriptions down below for a link to my book on Amazon. Anyways, in this video, it will be my first tech video. We're going to decide if the FX-8350 system, or the FX series, is still a good system in late 2018. Now, it all really just depends on what you're trying to do. Do you already have this system? Are you wanting to salvage some of the parts from the system before you upgrade? Or should you just upgrade altogether? Or do you want to build the FX-8350 system like the one I had? Anyway, it all really just depends on what you want to do. Now, I built this FX-8350 system and I sold it for about $400 because I already got the motherboard for free, and I already got the RAM for free, the case was free, and the power supply was adequate, but it did power the system, because the power supply was only rated for 375 watts, but under full load, it went to about 480 watts. So the efficiency is really not that great. Anyways, the FX-8350 system that I built had a 1050 Ti, low profile, because I originally was going to do it for a low profile system, an FX-8350 with an AIO cooler, about 120 from Cooler Master. Now, I suggest if you're going to build this system, or if you're going to keep your system, I highly suggest that you overclock it to 4.4 or 4.5 gigahertz. The motherboard that I had, I was able to overclock to 4.4 gigahertz just on this automatic overclocking profile, and it did turbo boost up to 4.5 gigahertz under gaming load. Under full synthetic load like Cinebench, it only stayed at the 4.4 gigahertz. Now, I highly suggest that if you're going to build a system, that you get a motherboard that already has a heatsink on the MOSFETs or VRM. Otherwise, you're going to run into some trouble, and you won't be able to overclock it as well, because it will downclock if those MOSFETs and VRM gets too hot. And if you're going to be gaming for long periods of time, so you're also going to want to have a fan with a case with a side fan on there to blow cold air directly onto the VRMs to have it exhausted from the power supply. Now, with my FX-8350 system, I ended up putting clear tape on the rear exhaust. I took out the back fan, put clear tape on the back on the back of the system. Here, I can show you guys. I ended up putting tape like right here on the rear fan, right here. So that way, when this case ain't really that good to kind of demonstrate with, but for instance, no, like a cold air, this should work. For instance, putting a side case fan on it will blow cold air directly onto the VRM of the FX-8350 system if you plan to overclock it. Anyways, let me put this back down because it's a Christmas present. I do retro game builds too. Anyways, you're going to want to make sure you got a motherboard that has a heatsink on the VRM or MOSFETs, because otherwise you won't be able to overclock it. But anyways, I built this system, and I also tested my FX-8350 system with a Vega 64, because it's very similar to a GTX 1070. And I tested it with my main gaming rig at 5820K overclocked to 4.3 gigahertz. I haven't really tested at 4.5, but I have my 5820K overclocked to 4.3 gigahertz, 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM. And that's the main test comparison I have, because my main gaming rig, I ended up taking the Vega 64 out of that gaming rig to test in my FX-8350 build. Anyways, let's dive right into the benchmarks and decide if we should upgrade or not. In the first game, the games that we'll be testing are Batman Arkham Knight, Doom 2016, Fallout 4, GTA 5, Skyrim Special Edition, and Wolfenstein 2: The Colossus. And each gameplay is from the FX8, and the gameplay videos that you'll be seeing next is from the FX-83 system that I built. And here's a quick slideshow of the pictures that I did, so you guys can understand what the build looked like. All the gameplay footage is from this system right here. Alright? So I hope you like this video. In each benchmark, each gameplay is about a minute long that I cut from the whole entire video. And in the top right corner,
Only inches. Oh, shit!
Maik wishes you well.
hope you guys enjoyed the benchmarks. Now let's take a quick recap. The FX-8350 system actually isn't that bad of a system. Even if you have like the 750 Ti and stuff like that, or 1050 Ti, oh my god, it isn't that bad of a system if you had a 1050 Ti or equivalent card to a 1050 Ti. With the Vega 64, it actually got respectable frame rates, with the averages being about 60 frames per second in all my testings, and the 1% being well above 30 frames per second in all my games. Now the 1.01%, I didn't really understand how those figures work, because if let's say for instance with my 5820K, my main gaming rig, with Skyrim Special Edition, I got about 45 frames per second on the 0.1%. Now as soon as I hit the pause screen, it jumped down to 5%. So take these figures with a grain of salt and just kind of look at the averages, and sometimes the minimum if the benchmark has provided them. The FX-8350 system actually got respectable frame rates, with most of the games being at 60 frames per second at high to ultra settings in most games. Because like with Wolfenstein 2, the bosses, I had it on min Laban settings and I got well above 80 frames per second, 30 frames per second, above 30 frames per second, the 0.1% and 0.1%, I believe. So, and with the 5820K, the Vega 64, all my testings were done at 1080p, like I mentioned. I got well above 60 frames per second in all my games. The 0.1% were well above 45 frames per second in most games. And stuff like that. And with the Unigine superposition, I ended up getting about 50-12-17 on with the FX-8350, overclocked to 4.4 gigahertz and 1050 Ti. When I upgraded to a Vega 64, I got about 12.927. I forgot to take figures with the 1050 Ti, but with the Vega 64, I ended up getting about a 13,244. And with Cinebench, I ended up getting about 699. With the FX-8350 at 4.4 gigahertz, with the 5820K at 4.3 gigahertz, I got about a 1259. And when I manually disabled some of the cores on my 5820K to 4 cores and 4 threads, I got about an 844. Still well above the FX-8350. Now, should you upgrade from your FX-83 system? Should you build it from scratch? Or should you just build a new system altogether? Now, it really just depends on what you're wanting to do. If you already have the FX-8350 system, and you have a graphics card like, let's say a 750 Ti, and you don't want to completely upgrade your system just yet, because overall the processing power of the FX-83 system actually isn't that bad. I got about a 699 on the Cinebench score. So I can still do a lot of video editing and stuff like that with decent performance. But so if you wanted to, let's say, upgrade the FX-53 system to, if you want to upgrade your FX-350, let's say to a Vega 64, which is about $435 new, and that's the AMD's current high-end graphics card offering. Or you could get a GTX 1080 Ti for about the same price, I believe. I haven't checked the prices on that, but I'll put it in the link in the description down below if you want to check it out. But that's only if you are planning to build a system down the road. Because if you don't plan to if you wanted to build like another high-end gaming machine like my 5820K, if I was to rebuy the parts again now, it would be about $1,000 build I would have to redo. Because the processor is about $200, the motherboard is about $200, about $108. So $500, $400 for the graphics card, $9. So yeah, right around $1,000. Just to rebuild my system. So if you're planning to build a new system and you want to upgrade your system slowly to build a brand new system, this is the route that I would take. If you currently have an FX system, like the one I built, the FX-83 system. That's the only reason why I think you should upgrade your GPU. If you had a weaker GPU, get the best GPU you can afford today, like a GTX 1080 Ti or a Vega 64. And then when you get your taxes next year or whatever, you can buy the, let's say, a Ryzen 2600. Next month, you can get the motherboard in February. You can get the RAM in March. And then you're pretty much good to go. Because if I was to rebuild the FX-8350 system today, it will cost me right around $500. $500 US. If I was to pair it with an RX 580, which is about $130 on eBay. I generally shop on eBay because I'm more comfortable with the return program and the buyer protection program on eBay. Now we just went on to number 2. Should you build the system from scratch? No, not when you can build a Ryzen 2600 system for about the same price and get better performance. Because let's face it, your case is probably, I just showed you the case earlier, but for instance, this case right here, you can reuse an old ass case like this and save yourself about $50 if you have an old computer case laying around. It may not have the best airflow, but let's say it may not have the best airflow, but this will say if you can reuse as many parts as you can, the case, the power supply, your hard drives, and memory, that will save you a substantial amount of thing. Just reusing this is a 1 terabyte hard drive. If you end up reusing your hard drives, that will save you an additional $35 to $40. Because if I was to crunch pennies all together and to rebuild the FX-8350 system, it will cost me about $371. Because I forgot Because if I was to rebuild the FX-8350 system, if I was to save as many parts as I could, like for instance the hard drive and stuff like that, I could rebuild the FX-83 system if I recycle as many parts as I could. I had laying around the house for about $371, which would be about $120 less. But I wouldn't really recommend building this system from scratch when you can build a Ryzen 2600 system for about the same price. But the Linus video, around 7 minutes and 36 seconds, only had a GT 1030. If you shop on places like eBay, you can get an RX 580 for about $130. Now we're at the last part. Should you just upgrade the system, buy a whole new system altogether? It really depends on how comfortable you are, if you want warranties or not, or anything like that. If you shop on places like eBay, they do offer a square trade warranty for like 2 to 3 years for a lot of extra bucks, so you can get a warranty that way. And eBay does have an I think that warranty includes, like, if the parts fail within 2 years, I will automatically replace it and stuff like that. And eBay just have a pretty decent buyer protection program, where they generally side with the buyer 99.9% of the time. So it really all just depends to you. Should you upgrade? Should you build the system from scratch? Or should you just buy a whole new system? It really depends on your budget and how much you can recycle. Because if you can recycle the case, if you can recycle the case, if you can recycle the hard drives, then maybe yes. It would be possible to build it from scratch, but I still recommend, like with JayzTwoCents and Linus, just go ahead and build like a Ryzen 2600 system from scratch. And it'll be a lot more efficient in gaming and everything else. But if you already have an FX-8350 system, I suggest go ahead and upgrade the GPU to a Vega 64, to a GTX 1080 Ti, and then slowly piece your next build together. Like I said before, 1 month by the processor, the second month by the motherboard, the second month by the memory. And then if you really wanted to, you could buy a whole new case and power supply, but I always try to save as much money as I can by reusing as much parts as I can. Because let's face it, if you're having an old Windows 98 era computer case and you have a Ryzen 2600 gaming system, that's called a sleeper build. And if your friends still think you have an old ass system like this, and you're playing Doom if you're playing Wolfenstein 2 at 1080p, if you're playing Doom 2016 at 161 frames per second with your 0.1 and 0.1% being well above 75 frames per second, they'll be like, damn, what'd you do to your system to make it so much faster? And you're like, oh, nothing. I just cleaned out my case. So, should you upgrade your system? Only you can decide. I found this to be a very fun experiment, and I enjoyed it, and I hope you guys did too. So that takes it for this video. If you guys like the video, hit the like button. If you dislike it, hit the subscribe button with the mini bell icon on the right so you can get future updates on the videos. And comment down below or message me on YouTube, and I'll try to get back to you guys as soon as I can. So anyways, thank you guys, and see you in the next video. And please watch my series on my life in foster care, because I will be doing a giveaway at the end of that series to a few lucky viewers and give them like $25 gift certificates to an online retailer, only here in the United States. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video.